Thank you for joining me on Julia's Bakery recipe videos. In this video, I'm going to give you the method and recipe for how to make our Irish soda bread. This is the same recipe we used at Julia's Bakery for Irish soda bread for many years. Here's some of the things you're going to need. You're going to need a mixing machine, a 4-quart or a 6-quart is fine, digital scale, some kitchen utensils, a sheet pan, some pan spray. I'm going to use a pan liner on my pan, but pan spray or oil would work fine. The ingredients you're going to need are milk, vegetable oil, butter, baking powder, baking soda, salt, caraway seeds, flour, and raisins. Last but not least, you're going to need the recipe. I'm going to put that right here on the screen. You can pause that, you can copy it down or take a picture of it, and I'm going to measure all my ingredients and we'll be right back and I'll do the mix. Okay, we're back. I measured up all my ingredients. I measured them all in separate containers. That way I could be sure that I have everything right. I double checked everything. I have my milk, oil, baking soda, baking powder. Everything is measured. I want to just make a point about a digital scale. Digital scales are easy to use. They measure in up to 1/10 of an ounce, sometimes 1/100 of an ounce, and you put your empty container onto the scale and you hit 0, and that brings it to 0. So you'll be able to measure any ingredient you need. Now the recipe that we have calls for 2/10 of an ounce of salt. So we just measure up, pour the salt in until we get to 2/10, and that is 2/10 of an ounce of salt. That's the right amount of salt for this recipe. That's just a quick demonstration of how to use a digital scale. I'm going to be ready to mix this. All the ingredients for this are going to go straight into the bowl with the exception of the raisins. We're going to hold these raisins back. We're not putting them in yet. So I'm going to first just pour in the milk, all of the other ingredients, and we're going to start this mix right up. The butter is at room temperature. You don't want it to be too cold. It'd be better if your milk is cold, you should also let it warm up, or you could even microwave it to just get it so that it's lukewarm. This recipe comes out better if the milk is not cold. This has to mix for about 5 minutes before we put the raisins in. So I'm going to start this up. It's going to pull together into kind of a soft dough. Perfect. So we're going to let that run for 5 minutes. And I'll show you how to put the raisins in. I'll see you in 5 minutes. And we're back. This has been mixing for about 5 minutes and we're ready to add the raisins. So I'm just going to stop the machine. I'm going to get my raisins and scoop them right in. After the raisins are in, we're going to start it up again. And we're only going to mix it long enough until these raisins are distributed. I'm going to stop the machine once and just get this little blob of dough that's stuck to the beater and cut that off with my spatula. Mix that in a little bit better. Now you can see those raisins getting evenly distributed. And that's it. That's ready. I'm going to take this off. We're not going to do anything with it yet. We're just going to let this rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to cover up the bowl with a little bit of plastic. And I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. And we're back. I've let this dough rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. It's time for us to portion it out. I'm going to uncover it. I'm going to save that plastic because we're going to need that. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on my table. Take out the beater. And use this spatula to clean off some of this dough. Dough is a little bit sticky, so you need to use some flour on your fingers and on the work table. I want to get as much of it off of there as I can. Now I'm going to use my spatula to scrape it out. This is going to give us about 3 loaves. I'm going to scale them. I'm going to weigh them with my scale. 1 pound a piece. If I have any extra dough left over, I'll just divide it up among all 3 of them. This part will only take a minute. I'm going to use my kitchen knife because that's probably what most of you have at home. I'm going to turn on my scale. And we're going to go for 16 ounces. Whoa, pretty close. There we go, that's 1. 17 ounces, I think we'll go with it. So take a little bit from this one and put on that one. And they're all pretty close. Now all we have to do, I'm going to set the scale aside. All we have to do is roll these up. You have to roll them over, just shape them up into like a round ball. That's 1. After these are shaped up, we're going to let these rest again for about 30 minutes before we bake them. In fact, if you didn't want to bake them today, you could even put these in your refrigerator covered, and you could always bake them tomorrow, and they'll come out perfectly fine tomorrow. They don't need to rise. They don't need to get baked right away. So you have a lot of flexibility on when you could bake them. But I think these, we're going to put them in about a half hour. I'm going to cover these up, let them rest. I'll see you in 30 minutes. And we're back. I've let the Irish soda bread rest for about 30 minutes. I'm going to uncover it. I made a little egg wash mixture. This is just 1 egg beaten. I put a little bit of salt in there and a splash of milk, and that's how we make egg wash. I'm just brushing it with egg wash with my pastry brush. That'll help it turn a nice golden brown. I'm going to cut a little cross into the top of each one of these breads. And these are ready to go in the oven for 45 minutes at 350 degrees. I'll see you in 45 minutes when they come out. And we're back. It's been 45 minutes. These Irish soda breads should be ready. Oh, they are. They look good. I'm taking them out. I have a little cup of honey. I heated this honey up, only about a spoonful of honey. I microwaved it, which just makes it soft and loose. I'm just going to brush these Irish soda breads with some honey. If you don't have honey in the house, you could always do this with just a little tiny bit of water and sugar mixed together. If you heat it up in your microwave oven, that'll make a simple syrup that'll shine up the breads for you. Now we're going to let these cool off for a few hours, and I'll come back and I'll show you how to slice one up, and we'll test them. Enjoy. I'll be back. Our Irish soda bread is cooled and ready to serve. And before I cut it up, I think we'll just review the recipe really quick. Your milk, try to have your milk at room temperature. If it's not at room temperature, you could always warm it up in your microwave oven. Your butter should also be at room temperature. And all of your measurements are in decimals of an ounce. So those are fractions of an ounce. For example, the caraway seeds is 8/10 of an ounce. So you can measure that very carefully with your digital scale. So I'm going to take one of these Irish soda breads and slice it up so you can see what it looks like on the inside. I have a thin bladed serrated knife, and the best thing to do is just use this knife and try to just saw back and forth in long movements, and that'll help slice it up without cracking it or breaking it. You may need to slice the slices just a little thicker than you would think. And there's your slices of Irish soda bread. I'm going to take a bite. It came out good. Enjoy the recipe.